All right, so we're going to try and do this digitally. Let's see how this works. This is supposed to be like an investigation and exploring the equations and graphs. So even though it says in the envelope in front of you, you don't have an envelope, it says there are 12 exponential functions. Both equation and graph are provided. They want you to spread the 12 graphs out and divide them into two groups, not necessarily an equal amount in each group. In the space below, record which functions you put into each group. There's no right or wrong answer, and what they had in common based on the equation. So I want you to put graph numbers and then tell me the graph numbers. And the graphs are on, I believe, page 8 of your text booklet. So go to page 8 and look at those and organize them. Tell me that it's graph number such and then because, and then tell me how you did that. And then we're going to do a different grouping, and we're going to create two groups, but this time we're going to do it based on the graph. So tell me which graphs and then the reason why you chose that. All right, so now let's take a look at this second half right here. All exponential functions have equations in this form. So this is very important, okay? The value of b is always going to be positive and it's going to be greater than 0, but not 1. For each of the following exponential functions, identify the indicated values and the information to complete the table. So if we take a look at this, notice that the A, so the A is, let me try and see if I can highlight that. The A is the number in front of the base. Then the B is what is being raised to the power. And then the D is at the end. All right, so let's take a look at A. Let's see if we can identify the A. All right, notice that the 3/2 is what is being raised to the power. Whoops, that should be a blue. All right, so this is the B, which means the value of A is 1. The value of B is 3/2. Now, this is where I need you to pay attention because we need to find out what the value is to get x by itself. We need to figure out what the transformation is. So x is actually, if I set this equal to 0, if I go x minus c equals 0, then I'm looking at the x value as being c. In other words, in order for me to get back to just x, I would have to add c so that they cancel and I'm getting back to x. So it's not just going to be the 2, it's going to be whatever value is going to make this equal 0. So what is the value of x? Well, the first thing you do is you write down this entire thing and you set it equal to 0 and solve for x. And then if x equals 2, then actually the value of c is 2. Okay, so the value of c is 2. Okay. All right, so, and then of course you have D, which is -2. And then it says what type of reflection, the x-axis, y-axis, or both, is indicated in the equation. So if you were to graph this, first of all, or even look at the equation, the fact that the x's are opposite will indicate that it is a reflection off of the y-axis. All right, so think about that. If I have an x, this point right here, which is maybe 3, 2, and I have the opposite x, then it is a reflection across the y-axis. Okay. All right, so now let's take a look at number 2. What is the value of A? And now there's a difference between -3 to the power of x, which they actually said b is greater than 0. So in this case, this negative, you can kind of think about it as a -1. So it's a -1 raising the 3 then to the power of x minus 1. So the value of A is -1. The value of B is 3. And let's see if you can try to figure out the value of C. Again, setting that equal to 0 and solving. The value of D is here. And then is there any reflection? So let's take a look. When you have a negative out front, that's going to be an x-axis reflection. And so what it's doing is your x stays the same, but your y value is different. So that's what it looks like when you have an x-axis reflection. All right, let's take a look at 3. Let's see if you guys can answer 3, 4, and 5. All right, let's take a look, see if you are right. Again, we're going to look at these values of A. And then we're going to take a look at the B. Let me go ahead, do a lighter one. Let's do the next easiest one, which is D. Okay, that should be a positive 3. There, positive 3, and then a -1. All right, now let's take a look, and let's, again, try to find the C value. So again, what is the x that's going to take it down to 0? So in this case, the C is 1. Set that equal to 0 and solve. Set this equal to 0 and solve. Okay, again, I want to reiterate that you're going to actually say C is equal to -1. C is equal to 2. C is equal to 1 on each of those. You're finding the value of x, but according to the form, you're trying to find the value of C. All right, let's take a look at any reflections. I don't see a -x and I don't see a -2, so there are none. Here I have 2 reflections. This -x, remember, this -x is a y-axis, and this one right here is an x-axis. So this one right here is an x-axis. All right, now let's take a look. It says I want you to now group the 12 into 2 equal number of groups based on the graphs, 6 functions in each group. Use a colored pencil. I'm going to use a highlighter, and you're going to shade the 6 functions in one group one color and then the other in another color. And then at the bottom, we're going to explain how we determine which functions went into a group. So on the Edpuzzle, tell me which graphs you did in one group and then which graphs you did in another group. All right, so if I can get this all in one spot right here, I'm going to take this and I'm going to use a highlighter. And I'm going to start with 1. And so I'm going to match up the 6 that kind of look like that as well. Okay. And then I'm going to use a different highlighter. And that's how we got our 6 equal groups. So let me just clarify then what the group with the yellow is. So the group with the yellow is going to represent growth. And the group with the green is going to represent decay. So take a look at that. All right. And it's actually very important for you. I can't stress this enough. to look at a few different things. So we are going to refer back to this page a lot until you get used to seeing some of the different ways that exponential functions can be represented. All right, so let's take a look at the next page. And we are going to make some analyzations about the A value and the D value. All right. So it says in the boxes below, identify how the values of A and D in the equation, and this is the form that they give you, all right, seem to affect the graph of the function. So go back and up there and look and see what the A and the D does. All right, so number one, the value of A, hopefully you recognize that if there's two situations. If A is less than 0, which means it's negative, the graph is below the horizontal asymptote. Okay, so go back and double check that. Look at that. If A is less than 0, okay, so we're looking for, let me change colors here. A is less than 0, the graph is below the horizontal asymptote. Okay, see if I got them all. Okay, the graph is below the horizontal asymptote. Hopefully you see that. All right, and I circled this. All right, and then what about the other value of A? Well, if the other value of A is positive, the graph is above the horizontal asymptote. All right, let's just take a look at that. Let's maybe make some, okay, so A is positive and it's above. A is positive and it's above the asymptote. Above the asymptote. Okay. All right, so that's a very important key thing to keep in mind. All right, it's color coding there for you. All right, the value of D. All right, so let's take a look and see if you recognized anything about the value of D. All right, so first I'm hoping that you are able to see that the value of D is the value of the horizontal asymptote. Okay, so hopefully you guys were able to make that connection. And then there's two things involved in that. If D is negative, the horizontal asymptote is below the x-axis. And if D is positive or greater than 0, the horizontal asymptote is above the x-axis. All right. So now what I want you to do is you are going to be looking at those 12 graphs and then answering this question. I've attached a link to a Google form for you to be able to fill it out. Once you're done, come back to the video and then you can proceed to the next question. All right, so let's check it out to see if you are right on these. On number 1, we can see that the graph is increasing. We already established that it is growth. And then was there a reflection? There was no reflection, and the B value was greater than 1. So I am going to give you these. See if you can notice anything. I want you to address any of these 12 that look a little confusing as to why it is. And then I want you to also make the connection with the growth and decay. And then also in terms of its reflections, just being able to identify those reflections. And then also to be able to identify the value of B. Now, I'm trying to, I'll go through here, and then I want to address any questions on that to see if you have that. Very, very important. I'm expecting a couple of issues on this, so you need to let me know if you have any questions. Don't just write this down. Actually take a minute and think about what this is saying.